Alright, hello everybody. Welcome back to another video. This one is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be Corvette related. I have owned this 2014 Cherokee Trailhawk since 2014. I factory ordered it, brand new. Watched the train on, the train's position on the map and stuff change while it was coming from the factory all the way to Arizona. Yes, I am in Arizona, to answer your question. Can't wait to get out of Arizona, honestly. It's hot and getting hotter. And you wouldn't believe, see this dead tree right here? This is what most plants are starting to look like around here. It's not just because it's wintertime, but trees and bushes and things are dying with a lot more vim and vigor these days. So anyway, what are we working on today? Well, this thing has been acting weird. It's been driving funny. It's misfiring and it's not acting right. And from what I've read, this is likely due to one of the coil packs going bad. So I'm going to change the coils and the plugs, and I'll show you how to do that in this particular vehicle. And we'll go from there. So one of the first things that you should know is the 3.2 V6 is what's in here. Great engine. It's the Pentastar. It's a very, very good engine, I think. It's powerful for V6, and so far, I've had nothing but good things to say about that. This vehicle has a lot of problems when it comes to transmission-related issues. The transmission is down there somewhere, but it is a very complicated transmission, so it's understandable why it would have problems. Plus, this was the first year of the new of that transmission and this new vehicle, so of course there's going to be growing pains. So the first thing we got to do is take this cover off. It is very simple to do. You just lift up on it and off it comes. It just pops off. Why so easy to pop off? These are little rubber kind of clips, I guess you could call them clips if you want. They are friction fit rubber clips that go over these little pins here. So you just set it on and you push it down and it snaps on there. So what do I need to do here? I'm gonna have to take this intake manifold off. There is a bolt here, and then on the back side there are two bolts back here, one there, one a little lower, and there's this bolt here, and I think that might be all. Actually, on this engine it may just be this bolt and that bolt, but I'll have to take a closer look. Going to have to disconnect some vacuum lines, and while I have this off, I'm going to clean the throttle body as well. And I need to double check the air filter too. This may sound funny, but I'm not even sure where the damn air filter is on these things. It's either in here, which I doubt. Most likely it's in here. I think you have to take these 4 screws loose and then lift this out. And I'm pretty sure the air filter's in there. That I should check that and replace that as well. So, the engine is actually not longitudinal, so we have where are they? Yeah, the darn coil packs are just all up underneath here, so I'm not going to be able to change them without getting that out. So I'm going to do that, and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so for the air cleaner, which is under here, you want to disconnect this hose. This is just a vacuum hose going to the air cleaner. Not sure what that... That looks like oil there. That's not good. So once there are 1, 2, 3, for 5 screws that hold that on. You can loosen them up enough to get the thing loose and remove it, and they'll just stay in the top piece here. And then you need to loosen these 2 clamps up, and you can take this all out. So I will do that next. Alright, so I'm leaving this in place. The air cleaner looks fine. I can see sunlight through it, so I'm not going to mess with it. It sucks cold air from down below, from somewhere up under here, up and in. Just an odd way of doing things, but actually the air filter looks okay. It's kind of actually not a bad design, really, because then junk just falls down and it just gets sucked up but falls down. So gravity helps to keep the dirt down out of the filter. I didn't check the bottom of the filter, but what I did do, this overflow hose is attached here. You can disconnect this if you want to, just pop that out. It'll just pop up, but rather than risking breaking that, I'm just going to leave it. I just loosened this up here so that I can get the throttle body and everything off of there. There's a lot of hoses and crap to deal with. I'm hoping that I can just loosen this up and lift it out without having to disconnect everything from it, but just lift it up high enough to reach everything. So that'll be my first method here, rather than just literally disconnecting everything. But we'll see. I feel like maybe I should probably go ahead and remove this, because I do want to try to get to the throttle body under there, make sure it's clean. So just kind of taking it slow, just seeing how things look right now, and we'll just take it a step at a time. Alright, so this isn't pretty, but the intake manifold is now here. I've loosened it up and lifted it there because I don't really want to disconnect all these. Just hope that's not pulling on that too tight. I should probably, there, that's better. Intake goes in right there, so I'm leaving that. This comes off. Also, you should know that there are quite a few things you need to disconnect. There's a vacuum hose on this side that needs to come off. A couple of vacuum hoses on that side need to come off. There's 2 bolts here. And then there's a plethora of bolts in the top of this thing. You can see where they come through. They're captive bolts, I believe, so I'm just leaving them in there for now. They seem to be holding in place, so I'm just not going to worry about that. Definitely want to cover this up so that stuff doesn't fall down in there, but now what I have access to is pretty easy access to everything. So this is the first time I've ever seen this engine without that on it. These are coil packs. So old cars, they had one distributor, and the wires came off of that and went to each cylinder, and there was one coil that powered all of them. And in the newer cars with fuel injection, each cylinder has its own coil. So they're called a coil pack, and that just disconnects right here. You just push this little clip down and these should pop out. I don't want to break it. I'm not sure how to do that exactly because I have never done one of these before. However, I do have the new coil packs here, and I'm not going to really take it out, but you can see these are a little different, but they will go down in there, and I'll show you that in a moment. I also, I better put this down on the ground. I also figured since I'm already doing this, it'd be smart to go ahead and replace the plug, so I got to go get my gap gauge and make sure they're all gapped at 43. I believe that's right. I'm going to double check that, and then I'm going to start pulling spark plugs out and doing all this fun stuff. I'm noticing though that there's quite a bit of kind of gummy shit coming into my engine, so I'm kind of worried that I might have some sort of a blowback problem of some sort, or The last and only time I ever took this to have it serviced, prior to recently for transmission recall updates, was I took it in for its first free oil change. Well, they filled it to, I mean, the stick was, there was oil up to the top of the tube pretty much. I mean, it was crazy. They literally filled the entire engine with oil, which is absolutely stupid. And I believe that's probably where this came from. I think it was blow-by that came from the overfilling of it. So that was several years ago, and it took me a couple of weeks to discover that, unfortunately. So just make sure that if you ever have a, quote, professional oil change done, always go and double check to make sure that they did everything right. And make sure that they even changed the oil, really. Another problem that they left me with was they had splattered oil all over the entire engine compartment, which was really freaking awful to find. And it was on the fans down here, it was on the radiator, it was everywhere. So very disappointing. That's why I do all my own work, because you can't trust anybody, not even the, quote, pros. I mean, I know there are a lot of people out there you can trust, but it's hard to find them here in the Phoenix area, I'll tell you that. So anyway, I will continue on, and we'll come back and see what's next. Alright, so it only took me a minute to get these connections off. You just push down on this little tab right here and then wiggle it carefully and pull on the plastic. Don't pull on the wire, and boop, off they'll come. This is a 10 millimeter bolt right here. Also the nuts that come off, not this bolt here, but these nuts are 10 millimeters also. Those are on these front flanges here on the intake. So now I've loosened this one up, and we'll get that up out of there and see what that looks like. Just give it a little wiggle. Boop, out they come. Good, it looks like I got the right ones. Oops. Looking down inside there, looks there's some white powder in there. There's the spark plug way down in there. Right down there. Yeah, it's a good view. So I gotta get a long socket to go down in there. And I have a spark plug socket I gotta go grab. So alright, so these are the coil packs, and we'll go ahead and pull some plugs and see what they look like. Alright, so I've done one new plug, new coil pack, wires reconnected, bolt torqued down nice and tight, not too tight, be careful, don't over tighten anything. When it feels nice and snug, just stop. If it calls for a torque wrench specification, use a torque wrench and torque it. Down there you can see down in the hole where I've removed that plug, and then I have used my special little awesome plug remover here and pulling this one out. And as you can see, I'll get that out and put it here with these three. These are the first three. And they look okay. They look pretty normal. Nothing standing out as bad. The first one, which I believe is cylinder 1, is running a little bit richer looking mixture maybe than the other two. I don't know, but good to be replacing these now anyways. And before you put new plugs in, there's two things. You want a spark plug socket because it's got a little rubber thing that holds the spark plug in there. You don't want to drop it on the end here. One thing you really want to do though is make sure that your gap is set right. This particular plug, it's a Champion Iridium, and this particular application call for a 0.03 gap. So I have gapped that to that, and I am installing these. You put them on the thing and then just carefully kind of slide that down in there. Don't want to drop it because you don't want to change your plug gap. It's best to kind of go counterclockwise till you hear it click, there it went. And then I hand tighten them until they're nice and snug, and then I give them a little bit more, well, I give them a little bit more torque with the wrench. So that is where I am. I will come back after the next step, which will be just doing the rest of these, because there's really not much to show or see here. So one more thing important about this particular job is that you need something like this with a flexible end on it. These are great. I believe I got it at AutoZone several years back. It's a 5/8 inch flex socket, right? Reason why is because when you are dealing with this section of plugs back here, there's not a whole lot of room because of the firewall and that. Even when I have an extra, you know, what is that, 5/8 or something of space on this, as you can see, it's still really tight. So I need to do it like that. So I get it down in there and on the plug, and then I just put the tip of the socket wrench in there and break it loose, get it loosened up enough, just put that back there, and then I can get that out of there. So haven't seen this one yet, so let's see what this one looks like. Kind of squeaks a little bit pulling it out. And you have to have a spark plug socket, because if you don't, you're never going to get these plugs up out of there unless you're really good at the game of operation. Oops. Yeah, that one looks a bit dirty. Anyway, still carrying on now. Okie dokie. Now all of the new plugs and the coil packs are in. Everything's cinched up. One thing I learned during this process is, how do you know when the long tip of that coil pack rubber end is seated on the spark plug tip? Well, if you wiggle these down in there, you can catch the tip of the spark plug with the tip end of the coil pack wire, and you can kind of wiggle it over it, and then if you give it a little pull back, you can feel there will be a little bit of resistance because you've gripped onto that. Of course, you might be wedging it in beside the spark plug, but the way this is designed, I think it prevents that pretty well just naturally, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. In case you're wondering, that right there is the computer that causes this vehicle to be a freaking nightmare sometimes. But anyway, also, one thing neat to know about this engine, I love this motor. This motor is great. It's one of my favorite motors that I've ever owned. The 350 is probably tops, but I also had a Charger, a 73 Charger with a 440 in it, and that was pretty freaking awesome. But what I love about this engine design is that this is actually the oil filter right here. You take this cap off, and there's just a simple filter that slides down in there, and you're good to go. Really simple. And you don't have to pull a filter from below. You just drain it from below, and then you do that and fill it here, and you're done. This is one of the easiest vehicles to do an oil change on, for sure. So now comes the fun part. Actually, I think I may go ahead and try to take these clips out and get the throttle body visible, at least so I can check it to make sure it's clean, make sure there's no oil caked up in there somehow and causing it to act funny or stick or do anything weird. So that's going to be my next thing to check now. Alright, so it's all back together. Sounds alright, I think. A little kind of a clackety valve sound. Not sure what's up with that, but it does seem to be running fine. And if we go inside, and we take a look, she's not hiccuping or anything, which is good. I'm gonna put her in gear and see what it does. Hopefully it won't freak out on me. Hey. Alright, we got a load on the engine, and look at that! She's running smooth as silk. Yay! Ha-ha! So, it was a coil pack, apparently. And I need to take it for a test drive here in a few minutes, so I'm going to try that. Let's try turning on the AC also. See if that makes any changes. I need to fix the clock. The clock is totally wrong. Alright, come on. Temp, temp, temp. Down, down, down. Oh, I see why it resets to that. Alright, AC is now on. Got a load on the engine. What it was doing was misfiring.